Cuyahoga County Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Turner.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one has signed in.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 30th meeting?
So moved.
Been moved. May I have a second? It's moved in a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk?
First item, Resolution 2024-0154 is being held. Resolution 2024-0179 is also being held. Next item, Resolution 2024-0183, confirming the county executive's appointment of Catherine Parks to serve on the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2027.
Good morning, Madam Chair. On behalf of the County Executive and pursuant to Section 340.02 of the Ohio Revised Code, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Catherine Parks to the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for the unexpired term of 6/30/2027. She will be replacing Rebecca Dorman, who had to step off of Adams due to taking a new job that put her at a conflict. And Ms. Catherine Parks is here to present today. We are requesting a second reading suspension, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like the record to reflect that Ms. Conwell is in attendance.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be considered for this opportunity.
State your name for the record.
My name is Catherine Parks. Do you want me to just tell you a little about
Yes,
myself?
please.
So I am a licensed professional counselor. I am a licensed independent chemical dependency counselor. I've been in the field for about 11 years now. I came to the field by way of the lived experience. Having partners and family members that were suffering with substance use disorder, and that's kind of how I got on the path. I wanted to understand the disease of addiction. And in understanding that disease of addiction, what I realized is under the addiction is a lot of trauma and mental health and emotional disturbance that goes on. And so that led me down a path to get a master's in clinical mental health counseling. And here I stand before you today.
So you answered my first question, which was to tell us why you have an interest in serving on this board. But do you believe that a certain segment of the county's population could be better served by the Adams Board? And if yes, do you have any recommendations on how we can improve services?
Oh, so I absolutely believe that those marginalized communities can be served better, right? And how we go about serving them is, I think, in the initial awareness that we even exist and that resources exist to be able to help them in their journey. So I work with a lot of underserved populations now. So I work with the dropout prevention and credit recovery population. I work in the school systems. I work in the community with the homeless populations. So yes, I do think that there can be better service for those.
Okay, thank you. The board normally meets every month. Do you anticipate having any difficulties making it to regularly scheduled meetings?
I do not.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions? Councilman Sweeney?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
The way you come up humble and just caring. And I think you're going to fit in well with the board because it's a great group of individuals that really care. And adding your perspective, I can only see adding great value. So
Excellent. Thank you.
If you ever come through the chair, we're a resource too, because we have the privilege of confirming your appointment. So don't be shy if you have a question in regards to how bureaucracy works or something. Any one of us will be more than happy to share our thoughts with you and see if we can have you more of a well-informed decision that you have to make. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
further questions? Were you at the recent annual meeting
No,
of the Adams? Oh,
no,
you missed a good one.
no,
Okay.
no, but I will be there from now on.
Can you find out, was it taped? Is there a link? This is your first assignment.
Oh, okay. I will do that. Yeah, I will do it immediately.
Find out if it was taped, because I want you to watch it. It was an amazing conversation with Dr. Joy DeGrew, who talked about. I'll let you find out. It's a surprise.
Okay.
But if you find that link, can you share it with me?
I absolutely will.
Okay.
I
All right.
absolutely will. Yes.
Thank you so much. If there are no further questions for Ms. Parks, I'll make the motion to move this item to the full body of council for second reading approval under suspension of the rules. Can I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Resolution 2024-0184, confirming the county executive's appointment of Kate McBride to serve on the Child Abuse and Child Neglect Regional Prevention Council of the Ohio Children's Trust Fund, representing the Great Lakes region, for an unexpired term ending September 27th, 2024.
Welcome, and state your name for the record.
Madam Chair, sorry, just really quickly. On behalf of the county executive pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 3109.172, I'm here to recommend the appointment of Kate McBride to the Ohio Children's Trust Fund, representing the Great Lakes region, for an unexpired term ending September 27th, 2027. 2027. She will be replacing Jennifer Crossman on this board. Stephanie Penza, as coordinator of the Ohio Children's Trust Fund for the Great Lakes region, is also here if there are any questions about the board. Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
Ms. Tascos? Can you
Yes.
confirm that unexpired term? We have September 27th, 2024 on the agenda.
It is 2024. I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, if you would state your name for the record.
Kate McBride. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. I am very excited for this opportunity. I have been working for the Division of Children and Family Services for 19 years. I spent my first 9 years there in direct services as an ongoing social worker. And then I promoted to be a case review facilitator and spent 6 years facilitating those meetings and in that position. And now I am in the multi-system kids unit, and I serve as a court liaison to juvenile court for our youth and families that are dually involved with both delinquency and our agency. So over these years, I have a lot of experiences working with families, talking with them about what services they need in order to pull out their strengths, help them build their strengths and reduce the risk of abuse and neglect. I also have a lot of experience navigating the child welfare system as well as the juvenile court system now also. So I think that my experience will really help serve on this board since it's all about abuse and neglect prevention, just being able to offer my experience and input and what services are best for our families.
Well, thank you for your desire to serve. Quick question for you. Do you see any statewide early childhood safety initiatives working to combat this issue? Anything that is at this point working that we could, implement here in Cuyahoga County?
I'm not sure because we're just primarily we're focused on our county that I haven't been involved in a lot of statewide initiatives.
Okay. Okay. Councilwoman Conwell?
Yes, through the chair to Ms. Fitzsimmons. Oh, no, Ms. McBride.
McBride,
Ms.
yes.
McBride. So you being a court liaison, could you share with us if you've had, and I'm assuming that you've had dealings with the CASA?
So I've actually had more experience working with CASAs from being a case review facilitator. So they would attend the meetings sometimes for the cases that were under court order protective supervision, so they weren't custody cases. So they would be there to offer advice and input on the families.
Are they doing a similar role to what you're doing?
No, I think it's pretty different. What I'm doing as a court liaison is really just kind of helping our system, children and family services connect better with juvenile court and how to work together to service families instead of kind of being on like opposite teams,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Miller?
So, Madam Chair to Ms. McBride, I'd like to thank you for your willingness to serve and to welcome you to the Child Abuse Prevention Council. I had the opportunity of serving on the council and serving as its chair for the first 6 years under the new model. So I've seen it firsthand, and so I'd like to give you a suggestion by way of background. Most of the work that the Prevention Council does comes in two forms, which is that we select vendors who can provide services to people who are at high risk for abuse and neglect, and help provide them services that hopefully substantially reduce the risk, and the second part is that we run public awareness programs and try to make the general public aware of the dangers of abuse and neglect and what to look for and how to prevent it, and so on. And the thing I'd like to share is that typically the high-risk services reach 500 or so families a year at best, which is out of a region population of 1.8 million. And yes, it's helpful, but it's very focused. And so my suggestion is that the Prevention Council really needs to work hard on finding programs to reach larger numbers of people, maybe with a program that's not an 18-week or 3-hour a session program, something that's 1 or 2 sessions, but good enough to make a difference. And so that and the public awareness programs, I think, really need to be given emphasis, simply so that you can reach enough people to move the needle. And that's a problem that we struggled with and really didn't completely solve. And I put that forward to you for your consideration, and I thank you for your willingness to serve and wish you the best of success.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, one other thing, which is that it's only 4 months till the end of the term, and we could give some thought to amending the legislation to say that Kate McBride is going to be appointed to the unexpired term plus 1 additional full term, so that she doesn't have to come back again and go through the process again in 4 months. So I just put that out there for my colleagues to think about.
Everyone be okay? Oscars, Mr. Alvarado or Ms. Toscas?
Yeah, that works for us.
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion to extend it for the following term till 2030. 28.
26, Councilman.
Oh, it's a 2 years, my bad.
2 years terms.
26, my bad. Is there a second, somebody?
I'll second.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Chris Alvarado, Director of Regional Collaboration. We will be sending to this committee documentation that puts into writing the extension of the term to go until 2026. That will be September 27th, 2026. That will be submitted for the next committee.
Okay, thank you.
Just on that point?
One second. Mr. Arnold?
That's just a formality because technically the appointments come from the executive for confirmation. So we would just get that letter and we can make the amendment at the next meeting to do exactly what you want to do.
State your name for the record.
Because I'm sorry, Joseph Nani, County Council. Because they only sent over documentation for the initial confirmation, for the initial appointment here.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, to
Mr.
to
Nani.
Joe. So, are you suggesting that we'll pass it out of committee today and then we'll amend it at the council meeting?
Yes, pass it out of committee today for what was requested by the administration. And then once we communicate with the administration on the full term that you had suggested, we'll have documentation and a formal request from them asking for this the appointment for the next term. Because technically, the request needs to come from the administration in writing with all of the documentation.
Okay, so then we would amend it at second or third reading?
Correct.
Okay,
Whatever you guys want us to do.
Okay, thank
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was an exercise. So, Councilman Sweeney, we're going to hold your motion until later. Okay. Are there any more questions for Ms. McBride? Okay, seeing that there are, Councilman?
It is fair, I don't think you have to come back for the third reading or second reading. Just, she might be thinking that she might have to come back.
Oh, you absolutely have to come back. No, I'm just,
Flexing a muscle.
so I might. No, but, we're good for now. At this time, I'm going to make the motion to move this item to the full body of council for second reading and approval under suspension of the rules. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. We'll be in touch.
Resolution 2024-0185, confirming the county executive's appointment of the Honorable Judge Donna Congeni Fitzsimmons to serve on the Cuyahoga County Diversion Board for the unexpired term ending February 28th, 2025.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive and pursuant to Section 208.04 of the Cuyahoga County Code, I'm here to recommend the appointment of the Honorable Judge Donna Congeni Fitzsimmons to serve on the Cuyahoga County Diversion Board for an unexpired term ending February 28th, 2025. The Honorable Judge will be replacing Akram Boutros on this board, and we are requesting a second reading suspension. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record.
Donna Congeni Fitzsimmons.
All right, what would you like to share with us?
Thank you very much for having me here today. Up until about 4 months ago, I was a judge on the Rocky River Municipal Court, which serves the western suburbs of Cuyahoga County, and I held that position for 30 years. In those 30 years, I saw tremendous changes. The biggest change I saw was that the offenders that were coming before me were so often people that were addicted to drugs and alcohol, had mental health disorders, had a serious, dangerous attraction to violence and access to firearms. So very often in my work, I did not feel comfortable. Many of them, and it was complicated by the fact that some of their offenses involved their family, their intimate partners. So it was very difficult decisions as to whether they could be safely released from jail awaiting trial. And because of that difficulty, many of them, that they were young, frequently like a young male that was in the household that was posing this risk, we would hold them in jail and try to move the case as quickly as we could. this presented a lot of real difficulties. These jails in the suburbs tend to be 10-day jails. First of all, there's no chance to get treatment, no chance to get medication, and frequently the jailers would have to take them to the hospital because they would be going into withdrawal and different things. So this particular board is of great interest to me because it is my understanding that this board may be considering, making some changes, looking at how they can increase utilization and possibly new programming. I'm very close to my former colleagues in the system of the suburban municipal court, and so I want to look at whether or not this is a way that we can expand some of the things that we needed as municipal judges. So that is one of the reasons, and I'm very attracted to the idea of diversion. In my 30 years, my biggest mantra was to try to get people into diversion treatment and basically save their lives, protect other people through that. Part of my what I did was I partnered with the Cleveland Municipal Court on all of their specialty dockets, especially their drug court, so that we could get our people, suburban people, into those courts and help them also to be able to get their grant funding, et cetera. My entire record, I believe I'm a problem solver. I've had a long career, 17 years as a lawyer before becoming a judge, where I was a prosecutor, then a federal prosecutor, the first woman appointed to be in the organized crime prosecution and public corruption. Also was in private practice representing Metro Health, UH, and Cleveland Clinic when they had litigation. And so I'd like to take my problem-solving skills to this place where I might be able to help. Also, I've had a lot of interaction with government. I was appointed by then County Commissioner Jane Campbell in 1996 when we got money from VAWA. And I, for 20 years, was the chair of the Violence Against Women Act Committee that allocated the funds so that we could really make an impact on that very, very difficult crime. So with all of that, I think I can, and am very excited about the idea and motivated, again, with that idea that I'd like to see people get treatment, get into diversion when they can, and also get help when they need it. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your years of service to the court and in other areas. I'm excited that you're excited because if you've been listening to any of the conversations that my colleagues and I have been having about the new jail, are we calling it campus? And the possibility of getting more utilization out of the diversion center. It sounds like you are definitely qualified to help us navigate through these systems. Several of my colleagues and I accompanied the county executive to visit, I think it was Davidson County, Nashville, and on their campus, they actually had a separate facility that only dealt with those who were dealing with drug, alcohol addiction, and mental health challenges. So we've been, trying to figure out how we can, do that here in Cuyahoga County. I know I've been talking a lot about a three-system, justice system, sort of, where we're doing pre-arrest with the diversion center and maybe having some space where folks are actually dealing with their mental health and drug, alcohol addictions, and then, of course, the actual jail. I mean, none of that is real at this point, but you will be a great asset to this conversation moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. I'm very excited. I love our justice system, and I was introduced to it at a very young age. My father was the carpenter in the old Justice Center and the administration building. And I would go to watch trials when I was young, 14 years old. And if I can do anything to improve the delivery of justice to our citizens, that's what I would like to do.
Because that's what it's about. Councilman Conwell?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Judge Fitzsimmons. thank you for your service. There's also been conversation, so I don't know if you've sat in, have you sat in any of the diversion board
No.
meetings thus far? Well, just your top opinion, there's conversations about having a crisis care facility and the diversion center.
The crisis care is tremendous. I would see people in crisis at that time, and jail's a very bad place for them, especially those jails, our jails. At least in Cuyahoga County, there's a mental health clinic. They can go to Metro. There's a lot of options, but you would be surprised in our suburbs how many people we see in crisis. And what do? We put them in jail where it's a very difficult problem. And as I said many times, they need to be taken to hospitals, and the burden of that falls on the city, either to lose police people who have to sit at the hospital with them, or we furlough them and a lot of times then they never come back. They will leave the hospital with, IVs in their, so it's a really bad problem. And anything where there could be a crisis center. I had been using somewhat the centers, and they actually were very good to take a defendant there on a day just to get them evaluated and some medication. But, truly, we definitely need this.
So my question is basically, do you think we need both? Currently, our diversion center started out for those that were picked up by police, but we've since then opened it up for family members or anyone that's in crisis to utilize the diversion center. So it's not just that
Right.
if you've got in trouble with the law. So my thought process from a budgeting standpoint, can we afford to really run both? Or while we have this opportunity for the correctional campus, can we, if that is something that goes forward to build a diversion center, that we could just make sure that it's there for both type of cases? Because you have those that have not been picked up by police, but they need crisis care. So just warrant your thoughts on that.
Well, I definitely think you need both, because you will see people that are, they're not in crisis, but yet they can't go home because they could pose a risk to their family members, so and themselves. So if you could do the same in one facility, it would probably work. But you do see people in a continuum of care in need. So.
Councilman Miller?
So, Madam Chair, Judge Fitzsimmons, I'd like to congratulate you on your many long years of distinguished public service and appreciate your willingness to serve on the diversion board. And one of the biggest challenges facing the diversion board is that the diversion center has just not gotten the amount of utilization that we initially had in mind, although it seems to be very, very gradually improving. And my question is, what do you think that you can do to encourage greater use of the diversion center throughout the county?
Well, I would explore this idea of, right now suburban courts really do not use the diversion center very much. They do use it on occasion, rare occasion. But again, we tend to see lower level offenders but also offenders that have those kind of problems that make them difficult to release to the public until they can be in some kind of program where they're getting help. So whether it can be expanded to allow them to allow those courts to utilize the diversion center could be an idea that we would explore. And I'd be happy to add everything I know about how those courts operate to that question.
Great, that would be helpful. Thanks very much.
Councilman Gallagher?
Hey, Judge, welcome. Actually, diversion, The only reason I know this is I sat for 4 years through all the committee hearings. Placement's important, and where we placed it was ridiculous for bad move on our part collectively, and it needs to be placed properly. And it needs to be in a central location close enough to the jail that it can be visually seen by the person given the choice of diversion or jail, because then it becomes real. So placement's important, or it's not going to work. It just will not work. And then when you're dealing with satellite communities, it's a long drive to get that person to a place where when they get there might say no. So it's kind of a crapshoot. So it's a very hard thing. Within the facility, we could have treatment also, which actually is in there when, if done properly. So what I'm saying is placement's important, and what you put in it is important. And of course, that's going to be up to us, and anything that your committee or board could provide us with recommendations would be helpful, because we are in those planning stages now. But we have the template, we know what we need to do, and it just seems, the tug of war seems to be placement. So that's hill number one. And once we get up that hill, I think everything is going to hopefully be downhill, and educating, again, those furthest away from it, the importance of it. And as you know, having dealt with it on the front line, it's very important.
Right, and Mr. Gallagher, like to be able to say, well, that placement affected everything, and now you're gonna take what you learned and go on from there. And I think that's the attitude probably everyone will. It's such a good idea, but
Right.
what happened? Yeah, that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
There's things we can do, but we have
Yeah.
to do them right. And we've learned, and I think once we do locate it properly and set it up, we're going to be in good shape.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions, we're going to move forward. I think your joining the board at this time is so fortuitous for us. We really need you to help us make some decisions in the future. So I'll make the motion to move this item to the full body of council for second reading, approve on the suspension of the rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could you add my name?
Yes, please add the councilman's name as well as my own. And Councilman Gallagher, Miller.
Thank you, and
Judge.
good luck. You have a lot of hard issues, and I really appreciate that you're here and so thoughtful.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you're going to help us through this.
Resolution 2024-0186, confirming the county executive's reappointment of Brandy Carney to serve on the Cuyahoga County Diversion Board for the term March 1st, 2024 through February 28th, 2027.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the county executive pursuant to section 208.04 of the Cuyahoga County Code, I'm here to recommend the reappointment of Brandy Carney to serve on the Cuyahoga County Diversion Board for the term that started March 1st, 2024 and will end February 28th, 2027. We are requesting a second reading suspension. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Hi, how are you? I'm well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here. Brandy Carney, as most of you know, Director of Public Safety and Justice for the county. I've been fortunate enough to be assigned or to lead the diversion project since the inception. A huge passion of mine. I love public safety and criminal justice so much, very lucky, and I'm so happy to be part of this project. I did want to start off with just briefly, I do have some comments because there has been a lot of discussion and talk recently, and I think that's wonderful. Talk about diversion processes as well as crisis center processing or behavioral health care center. And so I do have a couple comments, but I did want to share some of the stats briefly from last year, if that's okay, from our diversion center. It's often, particularly recently, that I may hear individuals, and it's nearly never do I hear individuals that leave the diversion center that talk about an issue. I often hear how good the center is and how happy they are, including agencies that use the center and send people there. But there are a lot of people who otherwise might say it's not successful, and I just want to put some stats out there and talk through a few so people realize really what we've done. Obviously, we can always do better, and I think that that's what we're looking at now and have been. How can we best utilize the center? So I'm getting older, I got to put these up. For calendar year 2023, we had 950 intakes and admissions completed. It's a 40% increase over the year before. We also saw an increase in the calls to frontline, 2,190. At the end of 2023, we trained 1,285 law enforcement and public safety personnel through the crisis intervention training. That does not include the city of Cleveland because of the consent decree. They have a separate contract for their services. So that's a significant number of people who have gone through the CIT training, 40 hours, or the refresher training, and includes law enforcement and dispatchers. We also reached 498 law enforcement personnel with 20 departments going to their roll calls to talk about the diversion center. These stats that I'll provide briefly next are for calendar year 2023, from the inception of the diversion center in May of 21 until February of this year. Frontline received 4,100 calls to the diversion center. 728 of those calls came from law enforcement. Sorry about that. In 2023, data shows we have 376 admissions at the end of the year came from law enforcement. It's 21% of all admissions. Of those 376 admissions, 95 were pre-arrest and 271 were non-criminal. So a charge they might have responded something, there wasn't a charge, but it could have been someone who was in a crisis, someone with mental illness and or a substance use disorder. From inception through the end of February, a total of 1,908 admissions had been completed. So that's individuals that went through the process, had been completed from all sources. There's been a lot of talk about some of the other programs, which are great, and they do things differently, but I can honestly say even in relation to Nashville, for example, because I was lucky enough to go there with Councilwoman, and wonderful program. There are some differences, but a lot of similarities. And we've had, in the same timeline, we've had about 1.5 times the personnel the people using our center as they've had. In general, since inception, about 52% of clients completed the program successfully. If they didn't, usually it's on their call, they leave the center, they no longer want to receive the treatment. 40% of clients left on their own against staff advice or AMA. 6% of clients were transferred to another facility for health reasons, maybe the severity of their care, for example, or they were more acute than something that we can handle at the diversion center. And 2% involuntary discharge due to violation of rules. The diversion center has made 840 referrals to 116 partner agencies, and that's when individuals finish their time at the diversion center and we can transport the individual hopefully to receive continued care that they need somewhere else in the county. Just to step back a little bit, when we opened this center, I'm very proud of this for all the contracts. I've been lucky enough to be at the county in this position a long time. But we signed this contract at the end of 23. I think it was the beginning of December, if I remember correctly. And by May 4th, we had a completely built-out diversion center, all policies, all programming, staffing, none of that. There was an empty building when we signed the contract. So, and we opened those doors, and it was slow moving, but we've consistently grown throughout the years, through the 3 years that we've had the center open. Where we're at right now, to speak to some of Councilwoman Conwell's questions earlier or statements earlier, the intention of the diversion center was always pre-arrest, and the intention, as many of you know, was to, rather than people following a crime going to our jail, to get them the services they need. With that, I've always worked towards, if it's not pre-arrest, then anywhere else in the process that we can divert individuals is appropriate, because we want to keep them out of their jail or keep them out of the criminal justice system if it is appropriate. The challenge that we've had in the last probably 2 years is when we first opened the center, there were 2,200 people in our jail, as many of you know. Many of those individuals were lower-level misdemeanors, the types of clients that would have been better served or could have possibly been better served at the diversion center. So now that our jail is down to 14 to 1,600, we still have those individuals, but not nearly as much. The numbers are much lower. And so where we're at now is law enforcement, as the stats that I just provided shown, are using the center, and they're using it often for the trespassing, for some of the lower level crimes, but those aren't the crimes that often end up in our jail. The crimes that we can still use the diversion center, but some of the charges that do end up in our jail or could end up in our jail, what I've found from law enforcement is they often would prefer that decision is made once they get into the jail. There's a prosecutor can look at the case. There's more eyes on the case because of the fact that these are more significant charges or they have a history. These aren't the, misdemeanor fives like before. So just an extra set of eyes or more discussion. And that's why when we first started this project, it was always the model for central booking, where right away everyone can look at the charges together, which is something that I know the administration and others are working on now, could really be an asset to diverting more individuals also. I do have 2 pilot programs with the courts, with common pleas courts, for the reason of diverting individuals. One of those is with all the specialty courts, which has been consistently successful. Not huge numbers. I think, if I remember correctly, 40 is around the number that they've diverted, but they use it when they need to, and that process has been successful. The courts did reach out to me. They have another idea, so to speak, and so we are meeting again for another option for diverting. The question that came up regarding the different centers right now. So right now we have, and this is a prime time, so it's really exciting, and I was so happy the judge and others are on the board. We had just formed a group of individuals, and I asked for anyone who wanted to participate, community members, board members, to really look at what I described before of all these different levels of the criminal justice process of diverting people and where the priority might be. We can continue to work on all of them, but the priority for pre-arrest with law enforcement, as I mentioned, is different than the law enforcement that are going to keep people out of the jail often because of the different types of classes of individuals. And so really looking at what is the priority. We also have, as you know, the Adams Board had mentioned last year that they are working on a crisis center for the county. So a crisis center for the county provides a lot of these services also to these clients, excuse me. So between the crisis center, between our diversion center, and then the model in Nashville, which has been really successful, a behavioral care center, the processes are a lot of the same, but the difference there is those individuals, even though the individuals can walk out of the door for the individual, and if they complete their stay at the diversion center, then those charges are expunged. So those individuals are technically in custody. If they leave, there's a warrant for their arrest. And so while it could be an option to combine everyone together, or it's something that right now we're going to talk about. What makes the most sense for diversion when we have these different groups? I think they can all be successful, possibly together, possibly not. The location discussion is prime right now with the new campus coming. So just a great time to kind of work through these challenges, for lack of a better word.
Any questions for Ms. Carney?
Well, I just want to comment through the chair, and my question was to the judge, in her opinion, which would be, do we need both? And in her opinion, she felt that we needed both. My perspective is, how do we pay for all this? So that's kind of what my charge and job is. Not that we need a lot of things, but we don't have them. So in that we do have a correctional campus, discussions going on and how it should be built, because we want to get it right the first time. I think that's very important that all of these partners and these different segments be brought up and discussed, so the correctional campus will be built correctly. Will that include a diversion center on it for placement, and what does that do for, in terms of other individuals that are not in the criminal justice system, but crisis care. So I just think that all of those discussions need to be brought up together. So not anti it, just trying to do my due diligence to learn, you know, all these different things and how we're going to all put them together and what's the best fit going forward, and especially the cost. Could you, I know you're here for an appointment, but what is the operational cost thus far?
Sure, so I pay, it's costly. I pay about $500,000 a month for the current center. And so, Councilwoman, I personally agree that there could be a great opportunity to look at on the campus, maybe having, you know, potentially one building with all these services. But again, I think that we have to have everyone in the room and really think through what that means and figure out what makes the most sense for the county, knowing that we have those. And the people that are in charge of each of those other projects that I mentioned are at the table right now. As I mentioned, board members are interested. So this is a task that we've just started, and so it's a good time for it. To your point about the funding is absolutely valid and something that's very important too.
Councilman Miller?
So, Madam Chair, Director, I'd like to follow up on Councilwoman Conwell's line of questioning and get your thoughts as to whether you see the crisis center and the diversion center as involving very different kind of services that need to be two separate facilities, or do you think they're close enough, closely enough related that it could be a single facility that would serve both functions?
Thank you, Councilman. Again, standing here now, I think that one building, possibly different entrances, depending on if in custody, not in custody, that there's a potential there. But again, that does mean some, that does cause some other challenges. So I think that we need to work through that. I think that there's an option, definitely, because there is so many duplications and we don't want to duplicate services for something like this. To Councilman Gallagher's point earlier about having it on campus, that could engage the criminal justice system even more. So I think there's opportunities to put everybody together. You know, the crisis center, which Adam's board had mentioned, is providing, or will be providing, a lot of the same clientele, not all, but a lot of the same clientele that we are providing at the diversion center. And what I don't want to do is tell an officer, for example, if it's this, then go here, this here, this here, because so what's the easiest for either law enforcement, but also for individuals that need the care, for crisis care. That's not, I want to make sure individuals can get to the center and access. So all those questions are exactly what we need to work through currently.
Madam Chair and Director, some in the advocacy community have taken the position that the diversion center should not be on the same site as the jail because if you're doing diversion, you really want the participants to have the sense that they're not in jail, that they've been diverted, and so my question is there consideration being given to having the diversion center long-term be at a location that's not on the central services campus, or is the administration's feeling that it should be on the central services campus, or is that still an open question?
Thank you, Councilman Miller. I think it's still an open question, but those are all the things that we're discussing now, especially with Garfield Heights. coming forward. To the community members, and I hear it often too, you know, we've been very lucky to have the location, and so it was separate from the jail, the current location. And so while that does provide some great incentives, you know, it also makes some challenges for police when they have to go outside to a different location. I would just add that Nashville does a really nice job. They have it's their behavioral care center, but it's on site. It's the building directly beside their jail. And so they make a point, and when we went there, and this is very common in diversions because they're becoming more and more common throughout the country, when you go inside the building, the colors are lighter. They don't have people staffed up in sheriff's office uniforms that go in there. They don't want the building feel to be punitive. Like, individuals are there to receive care and service. And so, you know, maybe ideally it would be 3 different buildings at 3 different locations, and maybe that's where we'll end up. But we also have to take into account some of the other things such as cost, just being in public service. And so I think that there's ways we can address some of those concerns with those individuals.
So, Madam Chair, Director, I would also remind everybody that Nashville is doing essentially no pretrial or no pre-arrest diversion. It's all post-arrest, and so if we decide we want to continue to do pre-arrest diversion, which I think we do, and I think we want to keep that option open in the right kind of cases, and that might have some impact on how we design the facilities.
I would agree, Councilwoman, or Councilman, excuse me. I think that we should continue. I've worked to have not just pre-arrest, but every point of the process that we can divert people to do it. That's why I have some of these pilots now. But to expand on that currently, I think is really important. And so I think that that's a good suggestion.
So, Madam Chair, Director, I totally agree with every point in the process. The cases and the circumstances are very different, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. And if you provide opportunities for diversion at multiple points, you're going to be able to do more diversion.
Thank you.
Okay, but let the record reflect that Councilman Kelly has joined us, and he has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Allow me to sit in on your committee. Sorry I got in here late, so I might have missed what my question is going to be. But would there be some redundancy between the Behavioral Health Center and the Crisis Center?
So, Councilman Kelly, thank you for your question. So the Crisis Center is actually the center that the Adams Board has talked about opening up. The Diversion Center is our center on 55th. The Behavioral Care Center would be specific to, or at least, you know, the model that was seen in Nashville would be specific to those individuals that are post-arrest that have came into our jail and have taken that opportunity for a program to expunge their charges or possibly get rid of their charges. And so those are individuals that are in custody still. They can walk out, but then there would be a warrant for their arrest. And so it's different programming at that point. Now, to your point about whether there's duplications, I do have some pilot programs with the courts now of diverting people post-arrest, so we're doing it in small scale. But I had mentioned earlier that some of the central booking processes are something that without those moving forward a couple years back, I've had some challenges being able to divert some of the individuals. So I think your question is, that's more of a post-arrest specific, but something we're looking at now on how can we make this most efficient.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Through the chair,
Councilwoman.
to Ms. Carney, or Director Carney, you shared the annual cost of what the diversion center is costing. Do you have any cost that you can share with this committee for what a behavioral health center would be and whatever the cost might be to run a crisis care center?
Through the chairwoman to Councilwoman Conwell, I don't have those with me. I'd be happy to share them. I would say that the ones I'll share with you would be other models since ours aren't up and running, the other two, but, and I can provide some more distinction on my budget for the diversion center currently.
But there's currently nowhere that would have all three operating. Behavioral health, diversion center, and crisis care center.
Throughout, I just meant from a budget perspective to give to you. There are models that, especially with diversion and crisis care, that's common, Franklin County, some of the other ones opening now. And so the post-arrest piece is a little different, but there are models with them together. Let me look into that a little bit and I'll provide you with something.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if we have no further questions for Director Kearney, thank you again for, I don't know if you really have a choice to serve, but I know you serve passionately and you care, so thank you for that. And we look forward to future conversations around this very important discussion.
Thank you, Madam. And I do want to say thank you so much for you and Councilman Kelly and Councilman Miller attending and going to Nashville. I thought that was a great opportunity to the discussion that we could have with everyone. When you see it, sometimes it helps a lot, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman, I'll make a motion to move reappointment of Brandy Kearney to the full council under second reading suspension.
I'll second and
It's
please
been
add
moved
my
and
name.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Add my name,
Yeah, mine too.
Councilman Miller. All right, thank you.
Just Councilman Miller and Ms. Turner.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Resolution 2024-0193, authorizing an amendment with Medical Mutual of Ohio for stop-loss insurance services for county employees and their eligible dependents and Cuyahoga County Benefits Regionalization Program participants, employees, and their eligible dependents for the period January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2024, to change the terms, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $1,934,511, effective January 1st, 2024.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Gloria Langford, Director of Benefits, on behalf of the Department of Human Resources. And this request is for our group health plan's stop-loss insurance. As background, the county is self-insured for our group medical and prescription drug costs, meaning that we are 100% responsible for the payment of claims. As you know, we pay Medical Mutual of Ohio monthly fees to administer our group medical plans, including payment of claims as they occur, and then we reimburse Medical Mutual for the payment of those claims, as well as likewise for CVS Caremark to administer our prescription drug plans. So the stop-loss insurance is to protect the self-insured plan against catastrophic losses. It's a fully insured arrangement that then mitigates the risk for the self-insured plan to cover or reimburse the cost of high-dollar claims and accumulation of claims that would exceed a certain threshold, and also including prescription drug costs, then allowing there to be a cap on the monies that the self-insured plan itself has to bear. And it also provides some predictability as to what the self-insured plan's cost exposure will be. So how does it work? If a single participant, whether that be the employee or a covered family member, has medical claims or accumulation of claims, cumulative claims, that exceed $750,000 during the plan year, then the stop-loss insurance is activated. That is when it, in fact, kicks in. And then the stop-loss insurer, in this case, Medical Mutual of Ohio, will reimburse the plan for the covered expenses that exceed the $750,000 threshold. Stop-loss insurance is very common for large self-insured employers, and it became even more crucial to a plan's economic health when the Affordable Care Act eliminated annual and lifetime maximums on individuals' coverage. And this was a welcome and needed change, of course, for individuals and families but it requires plan management to take proactive measures to ensure that all claims can be paid, and to ensure also that the plan itself can be sustained for all stakeholders. The county and our benefits consultant, the Oswald Companies, evaluated the $750,000 stop-loss level along with lower levels to determine what would be the best fit for the county. The analysis evaluated the premium that would be paid versus expected claims. To keep the per employee per month premium cost as low as possible, on balance with expected claims, it was concluded that the county would maintain the $750,000 stop-loss level for 2024. Stop-loss insurance is negotiated annually, and today's item is for the 2024 stop-loss contract. And while the effective date is January 1st, it normally comes to the committee and council in the spring of the year. And this is a normal delay as the insurance company has to review claims data for an entire year to get a year's experience, more or less, in order to then go through underwriting and determine what the premium cost will be. We respectfully request that the committee consider moving this item for consideration by council under second reading suspension of the rules.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Was this full amount included in the budget, in the approved budget?
Yes, according to our business manager, Stephen Witt, yes, it was included in the budget.
Okay. What is the reason for the expedited request, and why was this late?
So as you know, the way that the process moves from year to year, there needs to be at least to the end of the year for expected claims for the claims experience to be reviewed, and then evaluate what expected claims will be on an actuarial level. And once we do get then what the contract will be, there's the administrative process internally and the red lines back and forth of the contract between the county and Medical Mutual of Ohio. It was then, it went through its various steps internally and was then put into N4 on April 11th.
Okay. Are there any differences in the coverage or services from the previous contract?
There are no difference in the coverage or services. There is a slight difference in the premium per employee per month. The 2023 premium being approximately $16.30 per employee per month, and we are now going to be $18.14 per employee per month.
18 what?
$18.14.
And what's the justification for that increase?
Well, the underwriter goes through, as you know, this is a fully insured arrangement, and so it goes through underwriting. A fully insured contract versus a self-insured contract has certain factors or features that are subject to medical inflation and other increases such as sales tax and risk insurance. So they have to evaluate the risk, and the risk costs are attached to that insurance premium. And so from year to year, that is why the fully insured products will be likely more expensive from year to year.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller and then Conwell.
So, Madam Chair, Ms. Langford, how much money did we receive back in reimbursements for 2023 for claims that went over 750,000?
I do have with me our benefits consultant, Oswald Companies, if I might call upon, if the will allow.
Sure. Please state your name for the record and your position or title.
Good morning. I'm Kelsey Finucane with Oswald Companies, Vice President of our large market practice. Nice to see you. In 2023, there was one claimant that pierced the stop loss level, and there were about $12,000 that came back in reimbursements.
So, at least for last year, we paid a good bit of insurance, but we didn't get much back.
Yes, that is correct. So the stop loss is there to really protect you from catastrophic claims.
Understood.
So, yep. But yes, that is correct. You did pay significantly more in premium than you received in reimbursements.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, through the chair, when is the RFP due? The next RFP?
We are currently, we've just completed the RFP and received proposals, and the proposals are undergoing review at this time.
So so the new RFP should roll out, end of this year? Because you're extended, right? Are you just the change of terms and you're adding additional funds? So this contract will end, but no, I did see extend. You're also extending this particular one to 2024. So when is the new RFP going to roll out?
So the RFP this year included stop-loss insurance along with the medical administrative services contract, the prescription drug insurance contract as well. Normally, in the past, the stop-loss coverage contract has been separate. It went on its own. But this year, we combined them. But we still anticipate that the stop-loss contract will come later than the self-insured administrative services only, because once again, they do need to review the full year's worth of claims in order to get claims experience, as it being a fully insured contract that has to go through underwriting, and they need to have that full year's experience.
So we've never did this before, putting all three of them together. Are we looking for some substantial savings in doing so? And that would be interesting to understand how you're determining all those factors. I know stop loss is always set alone. So to my understanding, this, from the beginning of this contract on 1/1/2023, we initially had contracted for $1,630 for the premiums, but then we went up to $1,814 throughout this contract?
You're talking about the premium, the per?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. There is a slight cost increase or per employee per month kind of fixed rate that you will incur, that we will incur per employee per month for this coverage.
So do we expect them to go up again after 2024?
For 25.
Yeah, for 2025.
It seems to be pretty much the expectation that the insurance is going to go up a little every year, because there's medical inflation that they consider, as well as the risk cost, based upon whatever our experience has been for the prior year.
And other question that we've always had that was very high in cost that we can't control is the stop loss, as well as the pharmaceuticals. Will the pharmaceuticals go under this umbrella as well?
Yes. This includes the medical claims as well as the prescription drug costs. So they're all combined, and if the combined medical and prescription drug caps at $750,000 for an individual participant in the plan, then the stop loss will kick in for that particular individuals.
And which, through the chair, which providers are out there that can accommodate all of these multi-system things? Like which insurance companies, I should say? Because I know I'm assuming Medical Mutual can do it, and who else?
Well, our RFP, we received proposals from just a few insurance companies this year, Medical Mutual being one of them, and we're still in the process of, we've just got the proposals in the last few days, and so we haven't delved into it to know each one of them. I don't know each one of them. I can get back to you.
Yeah, I don't want to put them out there, but I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be, number one, a sole source in doing this and cutting out other opportunities. So this will be interesting. I don't know if Ms. Director Nemmelstow has shared this change with our chair. Hopefully she had. It's kind of new.
If I could, Stephen Witt with Human Resources. Just to provide clarification, while we've bundled all three, medical, prescription, and stop loss within this single RFP, there can be and are likely to be multiple awards. So it's not necessarily going to all be awarded to just a single vendor. I don't know if there was any confusion there, but from my perspective, it sounded like there was. But I will say that in my experience, the stop loss will likely be awarded with the medical provider, because historically, when we've tried, medical providers don't, stop loss providers won't insure someone else's medical.
Gotcha. But pharmacy could still, so basically the RFP is just sending it out there broad range, but individual participants could act on one or all. Is that what you're?
That is
okay.
correct.
Thank you. That clarifies. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Some very focused questions. Appreciate that. If there are no further questions, I'll make the motion to move this item to the full body of council for second reading approval under suspension of the rules. Can I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. Oh, that's it? Oh, okay. Is there any miscellaneous business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.